The Pittsburgh Steelers trading T.J. Watt to the Buffalo Bills would not just be a blockbuster, it would be seismic. A move of this magnitude would not only shake the NFL to its core but could very well alter the trajectory of two franchises for years to come. Watt is more than just a premier edge rusher, he's a cultural cornerstone in Pittsburgh, a player whose presence on the field is as transformative as his identity is emblematic of the Steelers' storied, smash-mouth legacy. Yet, despite all of that, the idea of Watt wearing a different helmet in 2025 no longer feels impossible, it feels uncomfortably real. It all starts with the holdout. T.J. Watt, entering what could be the final year of his current deal, has made it abundantly clear he wants to be paid like the premier defensive player that he is. He's not participating in OTAs. He didn't report to mandatory minicamp. And each passing day without progress on an extension only serves to widen the rift between player and organization. This isn't some mid-tier veteran trying to eke out a few more guaranteed dollars. This is a former Defensive Player of the Year. A franchise face. A statistical force. When a player of Watt's caliber draws a line in the sand, teams are forced to confront difficult questions. And that's exactly where the Steelers find themselves now, staring down a painful dilemma. On one hand, they could bend and give Watt the contract he's seeking, potentially exceeding the recent $160 million deal Myles Garrett inked with the Browns. That would mean handing over upwards of $40 million annually and committing unprecedented guarantees, something the Steelers have historically avoided. On the other hand, they could do the unthinkable, listen to offers, weigh the cost, and possibly trade away one of the greatest defensive players to ever don the black and gold. That's where the Buffalo Bills enter the picture. The Bills are in a unique position. After multiple playoff runs that fell short of the ultimate prize, their Super Bowl window remains open, but perhaps not for long. Josh Allen is in his prime, but the supporting cast is shifting. The departure of Stefon Diggs left a hole in the offense, and the defense, while talented, hasn't been able to consistently dominate in big moments. Adding T.J. Watt would change that. He's not just a pass rusher, he's a tone setter, a playmaker, a momentum-swinging force who demands double teams and still finds ways to deliver. DraftKings ignited the conversation with a bold trade proposal. The Bills would send a 2026 first-round pick, a 2027 second-rounder, edge rusher Greg Rousseau, and linebacker Dorian Williams to the Steelers in exchange for Watt. On paper, it's a steep price. But is it enough? For a player like Watt, one of the league's most valuable defensive assets, some would argue it's just the starting point. Yet, the proposal does carry intrigue for Pittsburgh, and perhaps even some logic. Let's break it down. The Steelers are a proud franchise, but also a pragmatic one. They rarely overextend themselves financially, even for stars. The last time they made an exception was for Watt himself, who in 2021 became the highest-paid defender in NFL history. And while that investment paid immediate dividends, Watt tied Michael Strahan's single-season sack record and won DPOY. Duplicating that kind of long-term deal for a player now in his 30s presents a different set of risks. Pittsburgh has other contracts to consider, including recent investments in DK Metcalf and hopes of retaining emerging talents on both sides of the ball. What they would receive in return from Buffalo is more than just draft capital. Greg Rousseau, though not on Watt's level, is a promising young pass rusher coming off a breakout campaign. At 24, he's just entering his prime, and his 8 sacks last season earned him a sizable extension. Pairing Rousseau with Alex Highsmith could give the Steelers a potent, if not elite, edge duo. Dorian Williams, a sideline-to-sideline linebacker, would help stabilize the second level of the defense and add depth to a unit that has seen turnover in recent years. The draft picks? Those would be invaluable as Pittsburgh looks to replenish its roster around new quarterback Aaron Rodgers. And that's another critical piece of the equation. The Steelers didn't acquire Rodgers to go 9-8 and sneak into a wild card spot. They brought him in to compete for a Super Bowl. Trading away their defensive centerpiece might feel counterintuitive, but if it allows them to add multiple contributors on both sides of the ball and preserve long-term flexibility, it's not off the table. The Rodgers window is narrow. And in the NFL, windows close fast. Sometimes the boldest move is the one that gives you the most options. From Buffalo's perspective, the upside is undeniable. Imagine a front seven featuring T.J. Watt, Joey Bosa, recently acquired themselves, and A.J. Epineza. That's not just a pass rush, it's a nightmare factory. Offensive lines would be overwhelmed. Quarterbacks would be flustered before the snap. Watt would immediately become the alpha on defense, and his presence would elevate everyone around him. He's a leader, a locker room presence, and a proven winner. And let's not ignore what this would mean symbolically. The Bills, long viewed as a franchise on the cusp but never quite there, would be declaring loudly that they are tired of coming up short. They would be pushing their chips to the center of the table. It would be their version of the Rams' F them picks approach, a high-risk, high-reward maneuver that screams urgency. But there's also emotion involved, especially for Pittsburgh. Watt is beloved by the fans. He's not just a player, they see him as an embodiment of Steeler football. Gritty. Relentless. Loyal. Trading him, no matter the return, would sting in a way that's difficult to quantify. It would signal the end of an era. It would break hearts. But it might also be what's best for both sides. Because Watt wants to get paid. And he should. He's earned it. But if the Steelers aren't willing to reset the market again, then a trade becomes not just a possibility, it becomes a necessity. Better to move him while he still has maximum value than wait and risk a souring relationship or, worse, diminishing returns due to injury or age. This is the business of football at its most brutal. Stars come and go. Legacies are built and, sometimes, continued elsewhere. The question isn't whether Watt deserves to stay, it's whether Pittsburgh is in a position to meet his price and still build a championship roster around Rodgers. And so, as the offseason unfolds, the tension will only rise. Every missed practice. Every vague comment from Mike Tomlin. Every cryptic social media post. All of it will be scrutinized through the lens of this potential trade. Steelers fans will hope it doesn't come to that. They'll hope Watt in the front office can find common ground, that a deal can be struck, and that the number 90 jersey will continue to terrorize AFC North quarterbacks for years to come. But if that's not possible, if Pittsburgh can't meet his demands, and if a team like Buffalo steps forward with a Godfather offer, then we may be watching the final chapter of T.J. Watt's Steelers' career unfold in real time. It would be painful. It would be historic. And it would send shockwaves throughout the league. Because when a player like Watt changes teams, when a franchise cornerstone becomes a chess piece, it's not just a trade. It's a turning point. And for both the Steelers and Bills, it could be the one that defines everything that comes next.